which might kick you out. So keep the link here. If it kicks you out in the next 2 or 3 seconds, just click it back in and come back in, and we'll try sending it.
It shows live for me right now, by the way.
Well, so ladies and gentlemen, if we are live, we're having technical issues. I don't want to, I guess I'll assume that we're live. I'm just saying it's saying connecting on my side. So I'm going to assume we're live. If we need to, we'll restart it. But if people are there and watching, thank you very much for joining. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm going to give a quick intro. I'm going to introduce our guests. I'll give you a little bit of instructions here, and then we'll dig into our topic. All right, now I am seeing live, but I don't see the timer going. So we'll see. Actually, if anyone's live and can see us right now, if you want to throw something in the LinkedIn chat, that will give me a confirmation. So our topic today, creating a strategic co-pilot. This is a CEO's playbook for leveraging AI. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the tools, some of the strategies, some interesting guests today that we're going to get into some examples and what we've seen on leadership teams and management teams and companies leveraging AI on that side. Let me introduce our guests. First up, Walter Paulson. He is a CEO and digital strategist. He's had deep experience with executive teams, helping them through transformation and tech adoption. Welcome, Walter. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Hi, Bruce. Happy to be here.
And next up, I've got Hamlet Azarian. He is an AI and digital innovation advisor, and he's known for helping businesses really help with operational advancements, understanding language models, really helping for team alignment, strategic planning. A lot of experience in this space. I'm excited to have him on the program today. With that, Hamlet, welcome.
Bruce, thanks for having me. Excited to be on as well.
Awesome. Before we get into our conversation, if you're watching live here on LinkedIn, we will be watching the comments. If you have a comment, question, throw it in there. We will watch that as we go. We'll try to weave those in. If you're on YouTube, we're streaming live there too. I won't be watching the comments there, so jump over to LinkedIn if you want to leave a comment live here. We will be watching, if you're watching the replays on any platform, go ahead and drop questions and comments there. We will be watching them in the coming days and weeks, and we can answer questions. We'll get back to people. So if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave comments there as well. So let's get into it. Our topic today is AI. I would love to just kind of understand, for each of you, I'd be curious, like, how are you using AI right now? Like, how does it help you with your leadership, with the work that you're doing? Just kind of case studies or a couple examples of where you're seeing it apply to yourselves. Hamlet, let's hear from you first, and then we'll hear from Walter.
Of course. Well, thanks for having me on. And Bruce, a little bit about us, right? So the agency's been using AI for 5 years. So that takes us back to when OpenAI released their APIs. How I personally use it and how the agency use it are kind of commingled at this point. And what I mean by that is we all treat it as a co-partner or a co-pilot, as the topic has, and we utilize it in different venues, from sales, from marketing, from operations, and even strategic planning. So I'll give you a specific example. Every quarter we do our OKRs, and what we like to do is we like to make sure it's top down and bottoms up. So how I use AI at that time personally as a CEO is I'm making sure that the goals and the objectives that everyone has listing out, all the objectives and the key results, funnel up to where we're trying to go, what our main North Star is. And what I mean by that is I look at every department. So it might be marketing department, it might be the SEO team, it might be our sales team. And I want to make sure everything that they are working on, that they've planned out for the next 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, all will correlate. And with AI, I'm able to quickly go through it and see everything that they've listed out for me. Does it make sense? Is it aligned? And what are some things that they might not be thinking about or they have missed from previous quarterly plans that we should be discussing as well? So it becomes a secondary set of eyes for me that allows me to ensure that the organization is aligned and moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, no, that's good. Walter, what are some things that you're using how are you seeing it apply to your business?
So I'm a CEO coach, and so I use it a lot in trying to develop and sort of push my CEOs, and their teams to be better. from background issues to, following up on particular, questions to even, ideating on what are some good one-on-one, topics I can use for a particular CEO. And I kind of create batches for all of them. And it's like having a research assistant who's, helping me lead, push, cajole my CEOs to be, to be better. And then I'm increasingly bringing it in to, I guess what I would call just my online,
Hmm.
interactions. So I think like a lot of folks, I have an AI note taker
Yep.
that's in, many of my Zoom, meetings. And one that I'm starting to use and quite excited about is an AI coach that a company called Pinnacle has developed. I
Hmm.
know the lead investor, and what they're doing is they're big believers in having executive coaches one-on-one, that human content, as am I, but it's prohibitively expensive to do it for everybody,
Yeah.
to take it down to the director, to the manager level. And so they figured out a way to basically let everybody have a little Jiminy Cricket in their pocket. And with the way they do it, they integrate it into your Zoom, your calendar, your Slack, your Microsoft Teams, and you can kind of shape the way that you want it to work. And it gives you advice and feedback. Like I've got, one client that's really struggling with culture, and they have a couple of people who are really disruptive on Slack, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And this is a way to kind of, you know, add in some, you know, add in some things where it's like, hey, maybe that was a little hard. And so it's trying to, democratize things. And so yeah, it's I mean, and obviously anything you're researching, it's having,
Yeah.
you have your PhD level researcher to do stuff. And frankly, I use it as, I mean, I still do lists and stuff, but I kind of use it as an accountability partner,
Hmm.
for myself, because I can, vent, and I have to tone it down so it's not too supportive, right?
Yeah.
But the hilarious thing is, and this is one of the implementations of Chat GPT, is um, I kind of pressed it on some of the things that people were uh, using AI for inappropriately and leading to things. And it kind of responded and shaded in the direction I wanted it to go.
Hmm.
So it's all, I mean, and this is all really in the last, I mean, I'm not like Hamlin, I haven't been doing it for 5 years. This is really in the last 18 months,
Yeah.
and especially the last year, that it's just, ramped up, exponentially in terms of the value, it delivers and how I'm using it.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that they do kind of fits into buckets for me where it's, um, kind of that conversational, like they'll help me kind of think through things that are sometimes difficult to think through on my own. So I can kind of use it as a sounding board and maybe give me some different ideas or help me kind of accelerate or expand my thinking process just one on one. And then I often find I will kind of take a process that I have going on, and I'll just start figuring out how I could apply AI. And sometimes I even ask AI. It's like, okay, look, this is what I'm doing right now. How could you help me? Right. And it will start coming with ideas and, oh, well, maybe we can do this step. We can create a template, or I could accelerate that. And then kind of that research and expansion, right? Is like, how do I get more data? How do I get more information to the table? And then with the clients, it's been interesting. So when I run these strategy sessions, and I've started to develop some tools that help them get through the exercises or get through the work that we're trying to do faster. So we'll do like competitive analysis, and we'll do a strategic plan, and we'll do a positioning, and they've got to like figure out, okay, what are the competitors doing around these attributes for a customer. And normally they do the best they can to kind of based on the information, right, like the data that they have. But now, like, I have a couple of tools. I give them links, and they can put in a competitor, and it will come up with deep research and in a very structured way that they can apply then to the exercise. So it's kind of really accelerating and deepening the work that we can do in these strategy sessions has been really interesting. And then similar to Hamlet, just kind of, okay, develop a goal, develop an OKR. What's the objective? What's the key results? And kind of coaching them through what are you trying to do? What are definitions of success, and helping craft kind of better quality strategic goals around some of this stuff has been interesting. I'm curious, where have you seen kind of the danger, or where do you see that this can kind of go sideways without a little bit of guidance or a little bit of guardrails around thing? I mean, Hamlet, I don't know what you're using in terms of guardrails, or what you suggest to people in terms of here's what to kind of watch out for in terms of where it can go sideways.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I'm going to build off of some of the stuff you've talked about earlier, as well as Walter, and also show how we've put in guardrails that prevent some of these things, right? So in the early days, and this is across all departments, this could be across sales, or it could be across marketing, but I'll give it very specific into marketing as well. You wanted to create content, and it would hallucinate a lot. It would go and grab the wrong information set. It would also, in addition to that, not speak to your voice. It would sound very generic, and it would sound very AI style, right? It wouldn't be your voice. It wouldn't be how you would be communicating with normal people. So a little bit of what Walter said, we utilized about 2.5 years ago or so now. We started really using this note taker called Fireflies. This is a shout out to anyone on LinkedIn from Fireflies. You can go ahead and start posting this because you've been brought up in the conversation.
We'll tag him in the show notes.
So what we started doing with Fireflies is it started creating recordings as well as transcripts, and automatically we pushed the transcripts into our Google Drive. And we connected that through the Drive integration with ChatGPT. And now with any client we were having an interaction with, we were starting to build, and we had weekly meetings or we would have daily calls. We were not only capturing the notes of the meeting and the strategy sessions, but we were also at the same time capturing the voice of what the CEO was and how they thought and what their viewpoint on the world was. The combination of the two things allowed both our content team to get much better at figuring out little niches and styles of what the brand voice should be for the CEO and what type of articles we should be posting. So now their LinkedIn posts sounded more authentic. Their actual social posts that they were writing across all platforms is better. Their blog posts were even more quality, and so on and so forth, because of the video recording element we put and the guardrails we put into place. So that's one real use case that we utilize today. We also started doing the same thing on the sales side. And but we did it a little bit differently on the sales side. So on the sales side, we started using it as a coach. So we started saying, how did the prospecting call go? Did you ask the appropriate questions at the right time? Did you gather the information that you needed? If you were going to do the call all over again, what would you have done better? What should be the next follow-up steps that you should do with this particular prospect? Is that clearly identified at the tail end of this call? And if a proposal or any type of research needs to be done, go in and review and say, yeah, this sounds good. This is our workflows. This covers all of the main points. Then it would also put a plan together and an agenda on how you should do the follow-up meeting. All this started happening in real time, by the way. So the call would occur, the transcript would go in, you would have a coaching session ready for yourself to present, and you would also have an email follow-up sequence ready to be able to send out to be able to close the deal. We saw an incredible improvement.
Yeah, I think your internet kind of cut out a little bit there, but I think we got the main gist of it. I wanted to build on that one a little bit on the sales side, because I did have a client. We created basically a sales coach process by which we loaded up, all the kind of offerings, all the kind of agenda, target agendas, all the objections that they typically have with prospects. And they had a sales team of about 6 people, and we created simulations that the salespeople could work with, right? So the chat would create a fictitious situation, and the salesperson would have to do a discovery call and uncover the right information. Who are the decision makers? Do have a budget? Things like that. And then it would score them. and they were then competing, right? They were competing in who could run the simulations, who could get higher scores on the simulations. And it was fascinating tool to just that they could use on their own just to run, just to practice, right? Just to have at bat. So then, they weren't using real prospect calls to kind of practice on things. They had the ability to generate them very quickly and score themselves. Walter, what are you seeing in terms of, how people have been using it and maybe some of the guardrails, a way that you could kind of make it more effective?
Yeah, I think one of the guardrails that's important is that, is particularly in sales, there's a big human fear factor that people don't want to put themselves out there and be rejected. And and AI doesn't care if it's rejected. And so in moving to pull the humans out of the equation, I think you run the risk of having AI generate 10,000 emails that are going to go out and be read and screened by 10,000 different, sort of AI things, and that there can be a tendency to indulge in some busy work. It's like, oh, look, the AI, I help the AI do all of these things and avoid, because eventually you need to talk to, customers and prospects and talk about how you're going to solve their problems. I think the buying process is still human. And I think it's, one of the things that we found is, because I do a lot of work accelerating sales growth, and people forget that, oh, well, pretty much every prospect you have probably has their cell phone within arm's reach, and if you call, they'll probably let it go to voicemail, but then you can send a text, and those human actions can actually be much more impactful than at scale AI, what are they, SDR. So I think that it's not a panacea, and it can create the illusion of action or the illusion of progress just because it's doing a lot of stuff. That's not so to me, that's one of the biggest things in the quest to eliminate people. You can just have software interacting with software and not actually making any progress.
I saw there was it was a little video somewhere of a call. It was a AI assistant calling a hotel to make a reservation, and the response was an AI tool. And so the AI is, well, do you want to go to fast mode? And they just go, and they made the reservation in like 2 seconds, because they realized, like, okay, well, we're both AIs. We don't need to talk in human level. It was a little scary, but I thought it was fascinating. I want to talk a little bit about context, because I think that's one thing I certainly learned in terms of really leveraging AI and kind of understanding how to make it more useful or make it more effective in the things that I'm doing. And understanding kind of global context and then project context. And one thing that I did was create I call it a master prompt or a master context document, which is everything about me, right? So it's like my history, the work that I do, the clients that I serve, the programs that I have. It has things in there like my love languages and like my attachment styles and like it's like everything you'd ever want to know about me in this master document. And what it allows me to do is, have that as global setting. So like I can go into Claude and say, okay, write me 100 word bio or a 500 word bio and this, thing. And it can do it right away because it knows all this stuff. And that now gets applied to all these other things that I'm doing. I'm curious what else you're using or seeing to kind of create better context or help companies like contextualize the work that they're doing, and making sure that the AI isn't, because I think Hamlet, you mentioned, is like, it's easy to generate AI speak, right? Like it's very noticeable. How do you kind of help focus or contextualize it so that it can be more effective? Hamlet, why don't we hear from you first? Oh, his internet may be internet.
Yeah, of course.
Is he there?
Is the stream better now, or is it still the Wi-Fi still bad?
Try it again. Go ahead.
You guys go ahead. Let me.
All right, you work on
it.
We can, but you cut in and out. See if you can work on it. Walter, why don't we hear from you? Anything context that you've been noticed?
yeah, can you? I got distracted by
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Let's think. Can you kind of let's
Yeah, so
again.
the things that I do, creating this master context
Oh,
document
yeah.
and then projects, and a lot of people use projects around this too. But what have you noticed around creating context for your AI tools?
So it's super important, and there's real art to it. I mean, I think it may end up being the revenge of like history and English majors, because the actual writing of the code, right? That's being. I mean, I it's a very tough market for recent CS grads.
Yeah.
But people who can write and express themselves and do the prompt management are in high demand. One of the things I discovered recently, because I have multiple instances of AIs that I use with different things, and I was loading a bunch of documents into one of them, PDFs on the people I was going to talk to and context, and it got sluggish after time. And so I asked the AI, it's like, are we getting to the end of because it has a certain number of characters? It said, no, we still have plenty of room, but when you load in PDFs and this and that and other things, it has to keep track of all of those, and that can slow down. So I kind of just shifted strategies because I had an AI where I was basically taking pictures and loading pictures of things, PDFs or no, actually I guess JPEGs, and then it could read the JPEGs, but it was its little $1 trillion AI memory was getting overtaxed, and so there are things. So it's important to provide context, but not overwhelm things with extraneous documents. So that was a thing that I just experienced this week. Hey, Hamlet.
Yeah, Hamlet's back. I'll build on that, Walter. One of the things, so I actually have AI chats that help me create context documents. So I'll work with a chat and load up all those like long PDFs and things like that. And I'll explain, look, I want to take all this content and create a contents document, and then for another conversation or a project or an instruction set for another project to be able to do something, help me, structure it, synthesize it, kind of narrow it down to the things that are really going to be important. And then I take that and go to the other conversation to actually do the work.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like I said, okay, we're going to need to sunset you. Please distill the stuff that's going to help, your fresh new AI puppy who's all eager to help. Give them some context so they can ramp up quickly, right? And it's fascinating to figure out how to do this. How can you inject it where it's going to make a difference, and also not get distracted by what I'll call sort of like AI reindeer games, because there's because you can spend a lot of time goofing around on things, and some of that's going to be useful, but there's also times you need to focus on having the right conversations with the right people.
I'll sometimes set a timer. I'll do like 15 minutes of I'm just going to play with it and see where it goes, and then I'm going to decide what am I going to do with this, because otherwise you can go days with this stuff. Hamlet, what do you do for context? Give us some of your strategies you're thinking around that.
Yeah, for sure. So any new client we bring on board, we have we call them core files, by the way. So it varies by department, and usually it's the brand voice. Like let's say if it's in marketing, right? It's the brand voice. How do we want to be speaking to customers? It's blog articles that we have written before in the past that we are really proud of, and specifically how they have performed from that particular client, or they've written it or they have not written it, or as we write it, we will put it in there. It could be visuals from imagery. So if there's ads, we would be putting top performing ad collateral that has done really well. It would be the ICP document, right? The ideal customer profile document. Who is their target customer? What are the things, both demographic and psychographic information, that you should know when you are writing any piece of form of content for this particular segment? It'll be customer testimonials. So specific case studies, if we've actually produced. These are documents that some clients have it or don't have it. If they don't have it, we're producing it for them, and it becomes part of the learning model sort of the RAG base of information that we're using in the future. On the sales side, it's the proposals, as I mentioned before. It's any really good sales calls that have gone well. So it has a history of what a good sales cost looks like. It's how good objections, like how to handle specific type of objections. How do you address inquiries from customers and any type of information of that sort. And then recently what we started doing is crawling people's site as well. So from beginning to end, so it doesn't need to do it on its own. We're already giving it the information, and we're giving it all of the key service pages, the About Us page, that has all of that as reference as well too.
Yeah. We in our prep call here, we were joking how the half-life of this can be quite short, right? The conversations we're having today like may have changed by the 30 minutes that we've been talking, that things have changed already. But I guess, how are you keeping up with things? I'm kind of curious what websites or what sites, what newsletters, what sources of information that you're using to kind of stay abreast or kind of find new tools or find new applications. Like what are your go-to sources? Walter, do you have anything that you've been leaning on or has been particularly helpful?
So the one that's been most helpful for me, and maybe this is indicative, are both sort of human based. One is Vistage has a consultant who runs basically how to use AI as a coach, and does a series of seminars, and he does it for kind of all kinds of sort of business leaders, but he has a special program for Vistage chairs. And I think it's 2 hours a week for like 6 weeks, and I did that 6-8 months ago, and I felt like I was probably getting 5-10% of it, but it gave me enough to kind of start using stuff. And then I actually went through it again, and it was interesting because a lot of the content had changed, and my awareness of how to do things was so much better. It was like rereading a book and recognizing all kinds of things that you didn't see the first time through. So I'm regularly trying to sharpen the saw. So there's an element of self-use and fooling around with things. And one of the things on strategy, like we particularly talked about strategy, is that strategy is kind of one of the most cognitively intense, things. I mean, that's why the McKinsey and Bain consultants get paid $1 gazillion. But Vistage has created a very good strategic planning tool that we're rolling out to all our members. And it's very comprehensive and excellent, and it has some AI. But then because I'm always trying to put the members' needs first. I got introduced to a growth consultant in San Diego named Merle Martins, and he has a program called Go Grow, which is basically strategic planning. He's done it for about 200 companies, and it has the same structure, but it's really integrating AI into the content collection, and it just accelerates things. Like Vistage and Go Grow will both get to a similar place, but I think, and what this indicates to me is the companies that figure out where AI can accelerate and leverage the value of their own human capital are the ones who are going to win. So I guess that's the part that I'm really looking at, is how can I leverage my own and the human capital of the companies and the executives I'm working with.
Yeah, that's great. Hamlet, how about you? How are you staying abreast of these?
Yeah, so it's part of every team members, every quarter, they have an objective on how they can improve overall their workflows using AI. So they're consistently always tinkering and looking for how can design improve their workflows, sales, marketing, kind of name it. So that's one way that's helped me keep abreast, is because I'm always seeing more or less new tools that they're recommending that they discovered that they want to utilize. We also have an internal Slack channel that we're constantly sharing. It's a learning channel. So any interesting videos we're seeing, any interesting use cases we're seeing outside of the agency, we share. And then internally, we also share on a monthly basis overall, what are some of the biggest wins we've seen so far, right? Hey, I was able to do this. I was able to figure out how to execute this. We're co-sharing prompts to each other all the time. Hey, by the way, did you know it could do this too? Like, because it's such a wild world, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're always sharing that internally. And then in addition to that, one of more of the process way or the things that I like to do, shameless plug, but I do a Growth Labs webinar series where it forces me to really go deep into any particular topic, right? So I am forced to understand what is happening in, let's say, GE or generative engine optimization. Not only are we doing it for our clients, but I'm also digging deeper and deeper and finding actual patterns and utilities and tools and all of this information. Or I'm forced to go deeper inside of vibe coding and vibe marketing. And not only are we doing it today, but how do I take what's black box within the agency and share it to the world and make it clear for them to understand?
Yeah. Yeah. Similarly, I find anything that's much more recent, so like YouTube videos and things like that, I find much better than the kind of the online courses. Just because by the time it's a course, I find that it's already a little dated.
It's already too late.
Yeah. So I find I watch a lot of those things, and I would say I have kind of two modes. I have this kind of incremental improvement mode, like, okay, what part of my workflow could I kind of accelerate, or could I simplify or make a little deeper using AI? And then I try to take a step back from things and just be like, okay, well, if I was starting this over, if I was building this from the ground up, how would I use AI? And that I find, that's kind of it's tough to kind of get yourself out of the mode, but more I can just be like, okay, like how would I use an AI first approach to this? And I do this with clients too. Like I have an exercise I do with the leadership teams where I break them to groups, and they all have, fictitious seed capital, and how would they basically form a new company that would cannibalize their existing company using like AI or new tools and things like that. So it forces them to really think about, okay, well, what would I do if I didn't have the current constraints? It's that innovator's dilemma. If I didn't have the current constraints and investments, like what would I do differently? And then we can kind of pull from that. Well, maybe we really should do some of these things. Maybe we should really rethink some of these processes. But I think that's always the trick in this stuff, is this incremental improvement versus kind of radical innovation kind of dynamic here. And you can use it as well. We're going to hit time. I want to make sure that people get contact information. Walter, if people want to find out more about you and the work that you're doing, what's the best way to get that?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and also you can email me, walter.paulson@vistagechair.com. And I think we can leave that contact information in the show notes. Is that right?
Yep. We'll put it on the notes to the event on LinkedIn.
But LinkedIn, email, and I won't give my cell phone out because nobody will remember it, but cell phone is good too.
Awesome. Hamlet, if people want to find out more about you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn as well. And then you can also go to Azarian Growth Agency, AZARIAN, growthagency.com.
Cool. Excellent. And mine is just bruce@eckfeldt.com and eckfeldt.com, and obviously LinkedIn. Walter, Hamlet, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for everyone for joining us. Again, if you're watching the replay, leave notes, comments there. We'll watch that as we go. And thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Cheers.